the mover and the shaker in the community. And he managed to crack the whip and make sure everybody gets here on time. So, Mr. Jesse,
crack the whip!
Well, appreciate it. There you go. I love that. Thank you for the warm introduction.
That one is
Excited. Let's give Richard about a second to finish up. So let's definitely want to thank all of you for being here.
Yes, sir.
And
Why is it different? Oh, table topic.
getting
ones
situated.
listening to
I'll
us.
give about 30 seconds.
You only get 29 seconds now.
Can you use a time for that? Who's the timer?
Time Adolfo.
Is Julie coming in here?
Now the cancel.
What?
Are you
They
serious?
call me and they text me, they can make it.
What do
This
you?
is so ridiculous. Oh, excuse me.
Right.
You're right.
This is really, it's...
Are we ready?
Yes,
All
sir.
right. Well, absolutely. Well, thank you again for everyone to being here, taking the time to be here, fighting traffic and everything else that we have going on. Our commitment is really to support each other and continue this club and continue developing ourselves. That's really what we're here, and that's also my goal. So, now with that being said, I want to go ahead and get started, and I want to call for invocation. I want to call Elmer Dinoso, please. Can you all stand? Amen.
Let's all bow our head and pray to our Lord. Lord, we thank you for all the blessings that we have received for the people gathered around in this room today. Thank you for the love and graces that you continue to shower us, not just today, but every day of our lives. Guide us and always help us in all the challenges that we meet in our everyday life. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you. Amen. Now, if you can remain standing, we're going to have Karina for the pledge.
Okay, please put your right hand and cross your heart. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Good job. And now we're going to have our mission statement. Mr. Voss.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. The mission of the Toastmasters Club is to provide a mutually supportive and positive learning environment in which every individual member has the opportunity to develop oral communication and leadership skills, which in turn fosters self-confidence and personal growth.
All right. Good job. That's the plan. Now I'd like to introduce our Toastmaster of the day. That's another day, Mr. Bobby Canseco. All right. Bobby. Good man.
All right, this is a special meeting, so we're so glad that we have special people today.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, I'd like to bring your attention to these two pieces of paper. One is the Table Topics Contest, and the other one is International Speech Contest. The Judges Guide and Ballot. Okay. Now, if you are a participant to the contest, these are the criteria. Do you have them?
Well, are they both the same?
No, they're different.
I have one.
Yeah. What do you have there?
I did table topic.
I have two, they both look like the same. Well, I guess no, they're not. All right.
They have different criteria.
One.
Table topic
Which one do you have?
international speech.
Okay, which is?
Yeah, international speech. You should have international speech and table topics contest. Right? As you can see, there are different criteria for each.
Table topic.
Okay. For the table topics contest, these are the judging criteria. Speech development, how the opening, the body, and the close, organization's smoothness. Those are the things they're looking for, and there's a different weights for each of these criteria. For this speech development, they put in 30% weight, maximum, effectiveness, how logical was it? Was it direct? Was there enthusiasm, in the answering of the question, the achievement of the purpose of that question, and how the audience responded. So, and then you have 25 points physical appearance, body language, speaking area, how you use the speaking area, okay. Voice, flexibility, volume. Both of them have 15 points maximum. Appropriateness, speech purpose, and that's 10 points, and the correctness in terms of grammar, pronunciations, and word selection. Now, why am I sharing this with you? Because number one, I want you to experience being the judge. The judge is going to use the same criteria. If you're the contestant, that you are aware of this criteria. Okay, what I planned, for example, for Roy today, is we will give him maybe 3 practice questions. Okay, and then for each of these practice questions, I want you to grade him. Okay, and then maybe we can summarize them and get the average and say, hey Roy, you know, average, here's how you know, if these are your strengths, maybe these are some of the things that you need to work on. Now, for the international speech contest, since we only have Beatrice here,
Not fair.
we will also grade her, okay? Basically.
So point of order, since
Yes.
Yoli is not here,
Yeah, we
is he
need
the
one
official
more.
representative of the club, or Beatrice will be the official?
Yeah.
They said they canceled, right?
Yeah, it's not.
They canceled the meeting, or they canceled the
They canceled. I
participation?
think it's not a good.
I'm sorry, I don't know if they canceled, but they just, they
They
wanted to be
cancel
here.
coming
They
here, or
cancel
they
coming
cancel
here.
being the representative?
Yeah, but if that's the case, I don't think that's a good sign, you know.
No, for the most part, I would think they're not gonna
So,
show up.
let's
I don't think
presume
it's counted.
that what
That
we
they're not
have,
coming.
that they're not coming
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
So if ever they show up at that contest, they will be playing
The
second
back.
fiddle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody needs
Yeah.
to notify.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I
you know,
pers-
you
I'll
just have
notify them.
to. You just have to, you know, notify the area governor. Say, hey,
Yeah,
you
plus
changing
if-
this.
But
or
you
this.
also need to notify Viola.
And
Yes.
plus, Mr. President,
Yes.
if,
Yes.
if the members don't show in the meetings, how can they be representing our group?
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm not
You
saying,
know?
I'm not disagreeing with that, I'm saying we definitely must notify Viola.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we
today,
we
so-
have to
I
notify.
inform area governor Peter
Uh-huh.
Ling, and at the same time with an email, and I sent out my CC Peter
Yeah,
and
and just say that, you know, the group have decided, you know, since we are preparing the contestant, it's hard to prepare a contestant that is not here.
Mhm.
So, yes, yeah.
Can we still have another proper, viable
Alright.
that we
In
can
case you don't wanna
trust?
come, yeah.
Can we have another backup other than Violi, please? For
A
international
third backup,
speech.
Third.
or second
What about
backup.
you, Was?
No, but it has to
the
be so many
criteria-
months.
The criteria for
Yeah.
international
Oh,
speech,
you
you
No, I
have to
cannot
have at
because I
least
Have to
6
complete so many
speeches.
speeches.
Then at least one of our senior executives.
Mr. President.
Please.
Hey, you're
Yeah,
not reading,
because-
you're not gonna be there?
No, the worst
I
situation,
can
the
read it,
worst
but
comes
I
to
can't
worst, if we don't
really
have
rely
a.
on Violi. if she
Uh,
doesn't- Just in case something happens to me.
Beatrice,
No.
Beatrice,
We have full
worst case
confidence in you.
scenario, if we don't have a candidate, big
Just
deal.
drop her.
Yeah.
Sorry, no, we don't,
Too bad.
We're not represented.
yeah, then we
Just
don't
drop
have a
it. Oh,
representation.
no.
That's-
This
No,
can't
I mean,
happen.
It's
don't
all
feel
on
bad.
you.
You know,
It's
I
all
mean,
on you.
No pressure, no
You're
pressure.
responsible.
No pressure.
I'm too tired.
Um, So, other clubs, small clubs fail to provide candidates to, so
Sure.
that's not a precedent, you know.
But it is up to you.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right.
The entire reputation of our club, from now till hell breathing.
Depends on
is
you.
all
That's why we're here to help. Yeah.
Depends on you and you alone.
So,
You're the chosen one.
again, let me go back to the criteria, okay? So
Yeah.
we
Let's
settled
go.
that
Yeah.
our candidates for
Good.
table topics is Roy, okay? And Beatrice for the international speech contest, okay? So here, we'll just have 3 questions for Roy, okay? It's only 1 or 2 minutes. I have 3 questions, sample question, and the representative question, but you know, who knows? I may be asking the question, then we,
The same one.
if we get lucky.
You're an official, you must have the book.
Nah.
Yes,
No,
yes.
this is, I just pulled it from somewhere. So try to score Roy as
Yeah,
if we were the judge.
Question,
Yes.
the numbers on the side, what do you do on the?
Yeah, well, if there were multiple contestants, then you
okay.
put the names here.
Oh.
But
Oh,
since we only have one contestant, then you say
Yeah.
first
Roy.
question, second question, and third question.
Okay.
Roy 1, Roy 2, Roy 3.
Or yeah, you know,
Yeah.
or question 1, question 2, or question.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's what applies.
Okay.
For question, okay.
Alright.
Got it.
Alright, and then so, clear as mud?
Clear.
Clear as mud, okay. So, I suggest that we begin our table topics, alright? Oh, and by the way, before I'd like just want to add, at the end of Peter's speech, international, of course, we're going to do this grading, but at the same time, we'll give a verbal evaluation.
Yeah.
Okay, while somebody is trying to tally up all these scores, at least we will give a verbal evaluation. So
Okay.
the same way with Roy, you know, we will give a verbal evaluation. All right, let's begin.
Yes.
All right. So, Roy.
So one,
Yes.
for Toastmaster,
Yes.
should we indicate in the steps on the agenda? One of the first is, probably we don't need Sergeant Arms, so we need grammarian time, right?
No.
Yeah.
Not really.
Timer we need.
Oh yeah, we need a timer. We
The
need a timer.
timer.
Who is our
Okay.
timer?
Right here, I am.
Yeah, yeah, it's very important we have the timer.
Okay.
Roy,
outcome.
the actual, I don't know if you're already familiar with the table topics contest. What they do is they have only one question for all contestants. They take everybody else out except for the first person who happens to pick the number one. It's
So all you have to do is, once they give it the first time, you text me with the question.
Yeah.
We confiscate phones from the other contestants except for Roy.
Roy has
So
been
it's the
around.
same questions for everyone?
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So the rest of the contestants,
No, but it's true.
they're asked to
You
leave
can
the
text
room.
questions to-
They are asked to read the room, and when it's their turn, then one by one they're brought in. So the same question. And if
So
you're
you want to be the last one?
so if you're the first contestant, you have the privilege of being able to listen to the
Others.
succeeding answers, you know, of other contestants. But if you're the last, you never knew what the answers were.
Unless Beatrice was there
Record
videotaping.
this.
And
Yeah, I'm gonna do that.
All right, so let's begin. All right,
Can we have an hour counter also?
an A counter.
That could be.
Well, it
No,
could come
it's not.
They
in
don't-
the, it's not in the criteria.
Oh, they
Yeah,
don't.
it could
Okay.
come into the verbal evaluation of
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, okay, so
everybody.
it falls somewhere.
Yeah, it will fall in one of these criteria.
One of them,
So, like in the speech effectiveness, the appearance, you know, all this, they will all fall into this place. All right.
Grammar.
So, any other question?
That's it.
All right.
the time for the speaker.
That's
What
5 to
is the
7 minutes.
5 to 7
Oh,
minutes.
5 to 7.
Right. But for Roy, it's 1 to 2 minutes.
Yeah,
Okay. Right.
But the official one is 5 to 7 minutes on a table topic.
5
No,
to
it's
7
one.
minutes.
Yeah.
What the table?
No,
No,
the
table
table
topic.
topic.
That's
is
Roy.
1 to 2.
One to
okay,
2
okay.
minutes.
1 to 2.
All right. All right.
For
Here's what
Beatrice, it's
happened.
5 to
They'll call
7
on the
minutes.
they'll call on the contestants. So Roy,
Yes.
Okay, going table topic first?
what will happen is I will be reading the question twice. Okay. And then that's when you start responding. So you stand right here. Okay, let me read the first question. Okay, this is the first question, okay?
Scaring her.
There's a saying that the difference between involvement and commitment is like that of a chicken or a pig to breakfast. The chicken is involved and the pig is committed. When it comes to life, which are you, a chicken or a pig? Repeat. Okay?
Yeah.
There's a saying, the difference between involvement and commitment is like that of a chicken or a pig to breakfast. The chicken is involved and the pig is committed. When it comes to life, which are you, a chicken or a pig?
Thank you. Actually, I use that story a lot myself in training, and it's a lot more to it than that. and it's basically a chicken and a pig walking down the road, and they see a sign on a restaurant that says ham and eggs for breakfast, and the chicken goes berserk, and the pig is saying, what's the matter with this man? Finally, the chicken stops the pig and says, no, listen. Yes, you're involved, but I'm committed. Because if you have an egg, you know, so what? The egg's gonna come back. But they gotta chop off a chunk of you for the bacon, that's probably not more. Well, that's really how life is. If you think about it, there are those who, they work there, they go to work, but if the company folds, they just gotta go look for a new job. If the company folds, the owner goes bankrupt, loses his house, his car, probably his wife, and his kids' educations. The converse of that is that if you're involved, you also get the joy, the success. All of the success belongs to you. Yes, you give it credit to other people that helped you, but it's your success. For me, I always live as committed, because that's where the joy of life is. To settle for being just involved is just not a place I want to be. Thank you.
All right. 1 minute, yes. Start.
Read up the total, Mr. Tomas?
Yeah, try to get a quick photo.
Okay.
Good.
So do we give our own, our score to him, or?
No, we will, somebody will have to collect and just summarize it for us. Okay?
Oh, so we're gonna give a verbal?
Yes, after that. After the 3 questions, let's give it. Maybe you can use that as a guide, to say, hey, is this, before we give, tally up all the scores. Okay. So, is everybody done?
Yes.
All right, so let's go to the next question. Unfortunately, it happens to also be a big question. I thought these are like very tough questions. Sometimes making changes is like catching a pig how to sing. It only frustrates you and annoys the pig. When was the last time you taught a pig how to sing? Sometimes making changes is like teaching a pig how to sing. It only frustrates you and annoys the pig. When was the last time you taught a pig how to sing?
Oh my goodness. Big.
Mind blowing.
Mind blowing.
If the third question involves pigs, I would have wondered why you're discriminating against Muslims. Can you even teach a pig to sing? Perhaps, if you are attempting to, it's like the old story of, if you work hard on something, you're making progress on it, things are going good, and your pig is starting to sing, and you're losing the excitement about it after all of that effort. Maybe it wasn't your dream after all. If you really find you have a pig who you're trying to teach to sing, maybe it's not something you should be pursuing. Maybe it's not your dream. Maybe it's not the pig's dream. Maybe it's time to just back up and say, you know, this really wasn't a good idea. Let's teach the pig to walk. Because we all know from Animal Farm that pigs can, in fact, learn to walk, and they can learn to speak, but not sing. Thank you.
Right.
1 minute. Is everybody done?
Yes.
All right. And for the third and last question for today. If you had to wear a button with a maximum of 5 words, what would it be and why? If you had to wear a button with a maximum of 5 words, what would it be and why?
Yeah.
A button with a maximum of 5 words.
It's like,
I think what I would want to do is I would want something that would communicate a message. A message. I would keep it really simple. Really simple. Just one word. Bliss. Because it would be to share with people where I truly live every moment. Just total bliss. I'm blessed beyond anybody's reasonable expectation. Probably blessed enough that you could probably sometimes think of me as the second son of God. Because my life has totally been a miracle in every aspect. I've always achieved everything that I've set out to achieve. And I expect to live about 3 more good lifetimes too. So I think bliss would be the best description of what I would want to share with people. Thank you.
All right, you can take your seat now. 1 minute. here's what we're going to do, since we have time. We will, let's give Roy our feedback before we give it to him, by using this one.
So
If
keeps
you
this one?
hang on to that first and use that
Yeah.
as your basis
Yeah.
for why you want to say something about.
Maybe 1 minute per member
Yeah,
to give
Yes, a
feedback.
bit feedback.
Yeah.
And so that, because if we have to wait a little later, it's, it may not be as effective as
Yeah.
it is. All right. When Roy comes in, let's give him a big hand. Roy! You're a winner. Roy, come up here. What we've decided is each of us will give a comment
All right,
about your presentation.
fabulous.
All right?
Sure.
Okay. So let's begin with
President.
who else ready? You're ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
Definitely, there were very good, great questions that definitely Bobby gave you, and definitely I see that there were great responses. One thing I saw, part of it was just the hands in the bag. I think sometimes we tend to have it of swinging our hands back, but nevertheless, you did great. You gave great explanation, and definitely, what I like to see maybe more the hand gestures, more enthusiasm for delivery, maybe a little passion, certain things. I think it'll make more impact in whatever you're sharing. So yeah, that's my feedback.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Roy did a good job. Out of the 3 questions, I think you scored best on question number 1, in my opinion. The speech development, I gave you a 28 out of 30 on that one. You were very smooth. Physical, which includes appearance, body language, and speaking area, I give you a 10 out of 15 because you need more improvement as far as body gestures and the use of the stage. On your voice, out of the 15 maximum points I gave you 11, you need to increase more vocal variety, I guess, more passion on the voice, and sometimes you tend to be monotone in your speaking, the way you speak. Speech purpose, I gave you 10 out of 10, and correctness in grammar 10 out of 10. So you did a good job.
Yeah, Roy.
In this case,
Well,
go ahead.
yeah, but teaching the pig to sing, I thought the end you should have said that I would be better off eating that pig instead of teaching it to sing. Well, anyway, what I like
You're
about,
against us Muslims too.
because I thought you were close to coming to that, eating a pig. It was mouth-watering. Anyway, what I liked about your speech development, I gave you quite a high score because you can really think on your feet. You're really good at that, and we just admire and love to hear you because of your brilliance. Yeah, really. Then about one thing that I think needs improvement, if you don't mind me saying, it's your voice. I think maybe, yeah, it is monotonous the way he said, which probably you could, so what happens is when you're talking, we kind to drift off, and especially with my ADD, I go away. But you could hold my attention if you change your vocal variety and try to bring that, oomph, so that I could look at you like that, yeah. So that's one point. Another one is your physical appearance. You look good, Roy. You look handsome, yes. If you could just, move and flex those muscles around, not like me, like going, ooh, jiggly, jiggly. I'm not talking about the jellyfish. I'm just talking about, that macho kind of a move around, like you own and possess us. So that's one. Yeah.
Like that?
Okay, Roy, I would say I love your tabletop speeches because they have a lot of correctness in the speeches and appropriateness too. I think the speech development, I rate you high on that, even though more points are given to that than correctness and appropriateness. The speech development, which is the opening, body and close, organization and smoothness. I think you play very well there. You do really smooth speeches, and that's really good. About the, I would say about the voice. These are very simple things that we know how to do, and you know how to do, but we cannot forget. And I think one thing will help you is something that I'm sure you know, that if you are in a big room, you make sure the last person can hear you, right? And I think if you, as simple as that, if you focus on that during the actual contest, if you focus on that, because I believe there are no microphones, right? No microphones.
There's no mic.
So if you focus on that, I think right there you will have vocal variety, you will have more, you know, passion during your speech just by making sure that last person gets the sound, you know, of your voice. So that's one suggestion I have, I think could work. With respect to the physical, I think, you know, it's not good to try to change, you know, because you are the way you are. I think what it is probably most important is the passion that you put in the speech. In the speech, and when you want to communicate to them, just like the last guy over there in the room was, you want to make sure, but you also want to make sure that he gets, you know, what you were saying about the peak and this and that, what it was coming to the feelings with you. So that passion, if you bring that passion out, that's really what will kick in and provide one of those speeches that make people say, wow.
Okay, it's me, new kid on the block here, so. I'm the new kid on the block here, so.
Oh,
As far as speech development, you really think of the answer really quick, and the answer and the speech that you give is really fast and to the point. You are able to really analyze the table topic and talk about it. Your correctness of grammar, you got full points on all three questions because of grammar. Your punctuation is perfect. The only two problems that I see is more or less the same as the rest of the group. For the body language, I agree with Adolfo. I don't expect you to be like a jellyfish type of
That's me.
presentation. But again, it's sometimes you came across as really stiff standing there, even though you try to move a little bit, but it's like you are really making an effort to make a move as opposed to smooth and like natural. So it's like really hard job for you to be moving around, because that's the impression I got from you. And your tone of voice, it's kind of flat, especially on the third questions when what's the word that you want to use or that you think of, and you say blessed, and you say, well, the word I think of is blessed.
That's me.
So is that good or bad? Because I was expecting you to say, oh, I feel so blessed, because and then you kind of like raise the tone of voice a little bit, because I feel so blessed, because but I feel blessed. So good or bad, right? So, but again, I think it's a common problems that we see that you have is your tone of voice is kind of flat, so maybe that's something to pay attention to. But other than that,
You're
you're
excellent.
good.
Everything's good, thank you.
Thank God.
You know what?
That's the best.
I have to commend you, Roy, because you're able to get up there and just the
Yeah.
thoughts come to you like this.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, I'm thinking in two languages. Okay, which one am I going to speak now, right? Because English is my second language. But your vocabulary, just the word that's used, is just. I know that some of you guys hear the monotone. I don't hear it because maybe I'm like that. And maybe I don't hear it also because I'm paying attention to what you're saying. But yeah, the enthusiasm, that I see that. Some of us jump around. And the how you start the speech in the body, and at the end you conclude properly, really effectively. But the second speech I got lost on it, or maybe I was thinking pigs sing. So maybe I got lost in that. The topic part, right?
No, he's thinking of the ham. He's thinking of the ham and egg, that's why.
But I think the only thing I think that you should add is the hand gesturing. And yeah, the loudness, but I'm here, so I don't know how loud you're going to be for me. But at a different, setting with 100 people, maybe it's different. But the hand gesturing, I think, is very important. I think that articulate what you're speaking of. Can pigs fly, really? Or pigs? But it's amazing how you put these speeches together really fast.
Yes. Brilliant.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right. They mentioned a lot of good things. The voice and the
Body.
basically and the physical, the body language. Okay, those two alone, they're already 30% between them. So you have to, because it doesn't take so much thinking. You just have to make it louder, and the use of the stage. One of the techniques that you might want to do is when you ask a question, you can just walk right here, pick one audience, and you just, as if though you're talking to that person. And then you look at the other person, and then maybe you can do, and your gestures will come naturally. Because if you're here, you might tend to hold on to it. So at least that gives the appearance that you are trying to connect with the audience, right? Now, as far as the speech development is concerned, one of the things that they're looking for is a good opening. Now, when you come up here, the minute you open your mouth, that's when they start to slap you, right? So avoid making statements that really do not contribute to the questions. You're like, boy, that's a, even right away you lose some time there. Yeah. So you can stand up there, just be quiet while you're thinking. You're allowed to do that, but obviously not as so long. Maybe give yourself like 30 seconds. Survey the audience. At least that time you can start thinking what your answer is. But think of what a good opening is. Like the question I throw you, I myself would have a hard time answering those questions. I just picked them this morning from the internet, saying, okay, this is tough one. But it's good to be thrown this type of questions. Like for the pig, for example, the pig question, the pig, how do you teach a pig how to sing? Maybe you could just even that sound, that catches the audience attention.
That sound exactly.
And then you just say, maybe that would be me if I was a pig. And then you could build your issue like
That would be vast.
yeah, or a comedian. Try to come up with something, and then in the end, make it a sandwich. Come up with a nice opening, and then your closing statement. Once you see the yellow light, don't just stop. Once you see the yellow light, that's when you try to start talking about your opening. Maybe next time I would have a finer, vocal as a pig. Something like that. But you already said something in the middle. So because that criteria is 30 points, the organic speech development. Always think of it as a mini speech. You have a nice opening. So while you're waiting, giving yourself 30 seconds, you see, all right, here's my answer. What would be a nice opening? What could be it? So that way, you're ready, And then once they start laughing, give them a chance to laugh. Obviously, but don't jump in right away. So that way, be effective. Right? And then once you're, for example, the other question about teaching a pig, obviously there are some symbolism in certain animals. So that's where you try to give meaning to that. I mean, obviously you cannot teach a pig how to sing. But what does a pig really symbolize? Somebody who's greedy, somebody who's already maybe that, and then you can relate it to something else. Now, if you do not know the answer, all right. If you do not know the answer to the question, maybe something new, you can also do a technique where they switch it, I may not know how to teach it, but let me tell you something about pigs. You just switch your topic, okay? Because the idea here is how do you respond to a question. But you acknowledge the question, but then you do a switch where you can talk more about it. And then you try at the end before you close, then you go back to that question. Maybe next time I will probably know more about it. So that's one technique, if you do not know the answer. But if you know the answer, well and good. Okay, so much the better. For example, they ask you a maximum of 5 words. Obviously, if you only give one word, the guy who gave 5 words would get a better scoring for that. Okay? Because it's more difficult to come up with 5 words than just 1 word. Even though your thought makes sense, right? So try to answer the question if possible. Yeah. So if one of the things, maybe you always try to reflect back on yourself, because you're gonna talk about something else. So maybe 5 words. What can I say about 5 words? Roy is the greatest guy in this world. Yeah. So right there, I mean, Roy is the greatest guy.
That's 8 words.
I know, that's it.
You just, maybe you can count.
Too blessed to be stressed.
Too blessed to be stressed. Something like that, something you can come up with, and then you
Have
can
a
talk
very
about.
nice day.
All right.
That's 5 words.
So overall, yeah, I hope
Have a very
that
nice
help
day.
you. All right, and what I want you to do is
Actually, that's what I think of immediately.
we're not going to add, but we'll just collect them and give this to Roy.
Okay.
All right. So at least Roy can see how how the scoring is.
So this is what you're going to do to us, like beat us up.
Toastmasters, I have a question about that.
Yes.
Now, when you're talking about when the question is given to you and that you're pausing, is there a time limit they give you, like 30 seconds, or is that something that's okay? Are you going to be deducting points for taking 30 seconds?
No.
But until you say the first word, right?
The minute you open your mouth, that's when they start timing.
Was-
But
suppose
obviously you
not
don't
to
want to stay too
Yeah.
long, because sometimes they would take a gesture.
As an opening.
If you make a gesture,
As a no.
that would mean like that you're starting your speech.
Wow, that's
So be
That's good
careful.
to know, because
Yeah. Yes.
One question, Mr. Toastmaster, just for clarification. In the contest, the time is 1 to 2 minutes, right?
Mhm.
But do they follow the same procedure that we follow here in our club? At the 2 minutes, the red light,
and
he has 30 seconds to
Yeah,
wrap up?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
the same thing.
30 seconds.
So, okay, so I just wanted to add, in your times, can I give the
Yeah,
times?
yeah, go ahead.
The time,
Get past it.
your time for the first one was 1 minute 32 seconds, for the second 1 minute 24 seconds, and for the third one 1 minute 23 seconds. So basically you took about a minute and a half. That means that you have 30 seconds that you could have worked.
Yeah.
But I understand that you are being careful not to go over.
Right.
But remember, 30 seconds, you can always there.
Yeah.
You can have.
Uh,
When you see the red light, in other words, is what I'm trying to say, you have 30 seconds.
Yeah. Take advantage of the light. You need to say,
Does he
wait,
have to
wait.
say good afternoon, Toastmaster? No.
No.
It's a waste of time.
Then the
What you can do is, one of the things that you can do is, you come up with a nice opening and then address that like, wow, quick. Good morning, fellow Toastmaster, and that's all you have to say. And then you can, maybe, I may not be a pig. Basically, you just, put that, instead of putting the greetings ahead before, come up with a nice catchy opening lines and then bring in your greetings.
but they don't have to say.
I'm sorry?
He doesn't have to.
He
Actually,
doesn't have to, but it would be nice if you, because that looks like you're still trying to connect with the audience. Okay.
Is it valid?
Because, yes.
Is it valid to say that it's more important in a speech than in a table topic speech?
Oh, it's more important. The greeting is
The
more
greeting?
important in the speech than the table topic.
It's, if you look at the criteria, they will grade you with the criteria.
Okay.
How is the opening, I mean, if you greet them at the beginning, that's too common,
Yes.
It's not something, so these are the criteria. So it may not, it would be nice to greet them. And my technique is usually come up with something catchy and then address the audience, but then continue on with what you're saying.
Yeah.
So you don't spend so much time on that. You're like, good afternoon.
Yeah.
That alone will probably eat up maybe 30 seconds already of your time. Yeah. So, whereas, you can blend it into your beginning and address them quickly, but then continue on with your speech. Because most those people who go to the higher, like international speech, that's their technique.
Yeah.
They address the audience, but it's not always the beginning. It's always blended in the middle, or right after the first few lines. Okay. All right. Any other questions? How was it, Roy?
Great.
Great. Okay.
So next up, the lamb for slaughter. The lamb for slaughter.
The jellyfish.
All right, so we're running out of time. Let's call out now to our international speech contestant, Beatrice Uli. What they do is, what's the title of your speech?
It's the world's scariest drive.
All right, what will happen is, they will say, Beatrice Uli, the world's scariest drive. The world's scariest drive, Beatrice Uli. So they repeat the title, and then first the name, the title, and then the name. That's how it goes. All right?
Yeah.
And then you can have the piece of paper.
I'm sorry?
She can have the piece of paper in front of her.
You can have something nose to grass, but if they notice that you're reading a lot, that's a big question.
You would have heard about the world's scariest urban legend stories, the world's scariest movies, the world's scariest videos, the world's scariest jobs, the world's scariest airports. But did you ever hear about the world's scariest drive? You're going to hear about it now. Good afternoon, Toastmaster, my fellow Toastmasters, and my honorable guests. This happened while holidaying in Maui, Hawaii. Maui is called the Valley Isle, and it's known as the world's best island for its size, its beauty, its famous beaches and diversity. So we arrived at the Kahului airport, so Hawaiian. And then we took a 45-minute drive to the Royal Lahani Resort on the Kalapani Beach. And Kalapani Beach is also America's best ever. So once we settled in, we were all ready to explore Maui's attractions. So on our checklist was written zip lining, whale watching, snorkeling at the Molokini crater, and also exploring the Haleakala National Park, which is the highest peak in Maui and is known for driving up early morning and watching the sunrise around 3 o'clock in the morning. It was worth it because it was beautiful. And then there was the famous luo, traditional Hawaii feast. So what we did was we drove up to the Iao Valley, which is lush green, beautiful, with its exotic flowers, and the famous Iao Needle, which was rising up to about 2,000 feet high. And while there were easy hikes in that valley. We went on a hike and we still had half the day left. And we were wondering, what are we going to do now? And all I wanted was excitement, excitement, excitement. I didn't want to stay in one place. I didn't want to go back to the resort. So my husband said, oh, let's drive another route. Let's take a route instead of hitting the surface road, let's go around the mountain. So I said, game, let's go. And we were driving. All of a sudden, the road started getting narrower and narrower. And I was wondering, what's wrong here? And we were looking up for boards, signboards. And we found a board saying, State Road ends. So I told myself, okay, maybe it's only a small strip and we're going to come to Sensible Road. And as we were driving, it's got more narrow. It narrowed down to the size of a golf cart track. That small, with the cliffs on our right and the rock wall almost touching the car. I said, this is not happening. We are in the United States of America. This is looking like a third world country. How come? Anyway, we drove. The tight, winding bends, hairpin bends. We couldn't even breathe because we didn't know what's coming from the other side of the road. And I was thinking, I was telling my husband, this is surely a one track road, which is it's a one-way road. And all of a sudden I see a car coming towards us. I was like, oh my goodness, we are on the wrong side of the road. And I started getting all worked up, and I was like troubling him and saying, what did you do? How could you get us in this dangerous situation? And then the person who was coming towards us, he was driving towards the rock wall. So he stopped his car, and then he kept ushering us to pass by. And I was like, oh, looks like we are on the right track. So then we passed by and we asked, are we on the wrong side? And he said, oh, you're doing fine, just drive carefully. So I said, oh my goodness. And then my husband, he's saying, take your camera, look at those breathtaking waterfalls. I said, just drive. I'm not touching the camera. And I was looking, my eyes were glued on the road. I couldn't do anything else. I couldn't admire the beautiful, dramatic, the seascapes, the streams, the beautiful lush green rainforest. I couldn't enjoy anything because my heart was in my throat. I was scared, I was shivering, I was saying this is crazy. And then, what was worse? What could be worse than this? It started to rain! And not just drizzle. It was ferociously thumping the car, the windshield, the wind howling, as if to say, you crazy people, what are you doing on my mountain? It was so horrible. I was like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened. I was imagining the worst at that moment. Finally, we reached a wider road. And the name of the road, can you believe, was called Ho Noa Pilani. So I think the language is like that. It's the way you feel. That's how they created that language. I guess so. And then when I looked up, later on I looked up to find out what this road was. Guess the name. It was called Kahikili 340. I said, I'm going to change this name. It's Kahikili 365 and a quarter days. Ahola, Toastmaster.
All right. 1 minute. Okay. Mr. Timer, how was the Beatrice time?
Yes, Beatrice spoke for 6 minutes and 36 seconds.
All right.
With some
Well,
limits.
the time limit, okay. You wanna comment?
All right, there we go, Beatrice. Little payback. Come over here.
Slaughter. Slaughter
We
me.
give you a little medicine. No, overall, I really like you. You did a great job. I like the energy, your enthusiasm, your body movement. I think overall it was really, really great. I think you're definitely ready for that speech. The only thing is, on the correction of words, there were some words that I just couldn't get. It were not really clear for me, especially if it's in Hawaiian language. but so just maybe the grammar in some areas. But other than that, to me, it was really, really perfect. I mean, I think you got it. I think you can definitely lead us in the contest, okay? Good job.
Hey, what can I say? You're a hands-down winner. I think you have better prepare for the division contest, because I think you're gonna win this area contest. But anyway, you did a good job as usual. You're very, enthusiastic, and the energy is there. The only thing that I want to suggest, sometimes there are words that cannot be understood. That's what our president said, Jesse.
Okay.
Like for example, you said the words scariest. I thought it was the word scariest. It's the word scariest road? Is that?
Yeah.
Scary, from the word scary, right? What comes to me is that the word scariest road.
Oh, it's scary.
Scariest, the word scariest. I think you have to emphasize the word scary.
Okay.
Because sometimes when you connect those two words, it's lost in translation. Also on your, and I noticed one phrase that you cannot really think of what to say, like you can't really describe the ski, the scenery. You're trying to say you can't describe the scenery because of your frightened, your I don't know if you remember that, but maybe when you play the video you would notice that. Your movement is okay, although the first part you move a lot, like back and forth, back and forth. I mean every sentence you're on the right, next sentence you're on the left.
Oh.
I would rather, slow down a little bit.
Okay.
But overall, I think Beatrice, you're a winner.
Don't drink sugar.
Okay, let me start with, this time with the lowest point I gave. I'm gonna start with the lowest point. The correctness of the grammar, pronunciation, and word selection is where the diction probably needs to be improved. Diction, in that way we can hear words clearly. But the reason why I started with those, you will see why in a second. And then I went with the voice, right? The flexibility. You do have vocal variety. I mean, you go there and everything. However, you have to add to that what I would say has the name of being natural. You need to be natural, right? Now, let me go to that. I'm going to send a little bit because I think I know how to contribute here in something very good for you. Okay. Let me go. Those were the lowest ones. Now, I like a lot what is called here the speech value, because this is an experience that happened to you. And right there is where I see a lot of value. Now, if you come from there, from an experience that you had that experience, only thing you have to do is relive that experience and relate that experience as it happened to you. As it happened to you. Maybe you may want to say what your husband said, right? The words that he used. The words that he used. Like you were saying some of them and emphasize that you turned your head and look across and through the window, whatever you saw, you see. Just like you experienced. Because that makes you relive your experience. And when you are natural, because you experience it, when you're natural, that's when magic begins. Because then people get your attention. You get attention, when you tell something that happened to you. That's why the icebreaker is so good, because it's something that is about you, and it's always really good to start a person like that. And so, if you come from there, I think then you are gonna relive the experience, and then you don't have to worry about walking around too much.
That's unconscious, so I have to become conscious.
Yeah, but what happens is that many times what happens is, like when giving the intonation, we want to, I put here that you were low in the voice, because one thing is to say the words that you experience, and you don't have to worry about giving any type of intonation. As long as you experience that something you experience, it will come out natural, and then people will get it. You see, what happens is a little bit similar to when we start talking too fast sometimes, because we think people are not, we're gonna get lost people, and there is no need to do that.
Okay.
It's a little bit of that. Sometimes we wanna talk fast, and we wanna talk with giving a lot of gestures to make the thing more interesting to people when there is no need to do that. You see, people already are interested as long as you're natural, as you relieve your experience. So that's
So I
how you
think
get
just
it.
the opposite of Roy.
Yeah, in a way.
No, actually, you know what? That's a good point.
Yeah.
The same thing.
Uh-huh.
That's the same thing that Roy has to do. You see, it has to be natural
Yeah.
and make sure that the last person over there hears him, and then it comes again. He's okay, but the point for you see, is that you don't have to worry about speaking fast and about giving too much intonation and time. You just relay your experience. Right.
Yeah.
Just a red light already.
Yeah.
Well, I guess what I want to say, part of it has been covered by Adolfo and part covered by Elma. But one thing that I feel like is, I don't know if you guys feel it, but I think you take a little bit too long to get into the real topic. It's like a scary drive. And then you
Okay.
spend like about
It's a minute.
a minute talk about the plane, the Hawaii or Maui where you stay, and then
Uh-huh.
and here I find myself sitting here. So
Visit.
what is it about the scary drive? I still don't know where you're driving, you know. So I think it takes a little bit too long to get
Too
into
long,
the real
okay.
topic.
Uh-huh.
And I agree with Adolfo that you move a little bit too much for me, especially in the beginning. You're walking left and right, left, and I noticed my head was turning like this.
Yeah, I know.
Right, left, right. But then when you station there,
Right.
towards the second half of the speech, that was very nice. I was able to concentrate on the speech
Okay.
as opposed to find myself following the movement. While you're standing there, you were still moving, so that was good. It's like you're still not stiff, but but some of your gesture, like
So
I
just
think
cut out like till here.
when you're standing right over there,
Oh, okay, okay.
and but you were still kind of moving around a little bit. I like it that way, as opposed to in the
Going
beginning
from
of the
this
speech,
end to that.
you are like back, forth,
Okay, okay.
and I find myself trying to follow your action
yeah,
as
I know,
opposed
that's I
to
know.
concentrate on the
Yeah.
speech. And some of your movement, I think maybe can be, it's a little bit too exaggerated.
Uh-huh.
Can be like less exaggerated, so it comes as more natural as far as delivering the speech.
Okay.
Okay, and that's, but other than that, I like your volume
Uh-huh.
and your pace, the way the pace you talk, the way you deliver the speech. I think that's a good pace, not too fast and not too slow. But and it's true that there's some vocabulary, some words that I can't really get to it.
Okay, I have to practice.
Yeah, just like mine, you know, last week we were Chinese accent.
Oh, is that?
So that's it.
All right.
Okay.
Really good. Thank you.
Okay.
Actually, I really like your enthusiasm. The topic, like Karina said, just get to the point sooner.
Okay.
And what I see is, I know this is constructive criticism, all the good things.
Yeah.
I think when you walk around, you're looking up also, you're not
Oh,
really
yeah, I
making
know,
eye
I know.
contact
I
with your
realize
audience.
that, right.
You're doing this,
Because I'm
you're doing
thinking.
this.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's what
That's
So I
true.
Well,
think,
could be
I
a
don't
sign
know.
of nervousness too.
Yeah.
but
Okay,
you
so I
tend
should
to do
look.
that, not just this time, but each time. You
Uh-huh.
tend to look up and talk, and look
Yeah.
down and talk, instead of to the audience.
Yeah.
And
I
what they were talking about being natural, I think
Yeah.
you're in your tone's high, you have a lot of enthusiasm, energy. I
Uh-huh.
think if you tone it down a little bit also,
Okay.
maybe like there's a couple of times where you got there, you
Uh-huh.
really talked
Mhm.
yourself instead of trying to, wow, this is exciting. But I think
Uh.
to use that part, at the exciting parts of the
Yeah.
speech, instead of, wow, this is the best, the snorkeling and everything.
Uh-huh.
So you're monotone in that tone,
Okay.
but not going up and down.
Okay.
like,
Mhm.
This is a really nice snorkeling trip, but
Mhm.
that scary road, kind of like that. That's what I
Okay.
see. I don't know if somebody want to add to it?
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Overall, it was really
Yeah.
good energy. And you always match your clothing.
One of the things I like the very best about this group is that everyone, and probably including me, is English second language. Certainly California English, second language. This is not the accent I had when I was young.
Okay.
But one of the things that you're going to encounter in competition, as well as in life, is that most of the people in your audience are not going to be English second language.
That's true.
So they're going to be far more distracted by your accent. And they're going to be particularly distracted by mispronunciation of Hawaiian names. Because Hawaii is kind of a West Coast vacation destination. Probably the majority of the people who will be in the audience will have been there. And Americans are very xenophobic, which means they're terrified of anybody that doesn't speak like them.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Where are you going to find a country where everybody is an immigrant and everybody wants to keep the immigrants out?
Oh.
I mean, how is that for craziness? That's the insanity of this country.
Oh my gosh.
So when I would suggest that between now and your presentation, or anytime you're going to do a presentation, that you find someone who speaks the language those words come from, and make sure that you have them correct. For instance, when you ended your presentation, did everyone notice their salutation at the end?
Oh yeah. Aloha. Oh, it's aloha. Oh my gosh.
Right.
Aloha.
And there were a number of places that you mispronounced during the presentation. So in fact, most of the physical place names that you used were wrong.
Oh, okay.
And again, that doesn't apply. Like I learned from this presentation that I need to enunciate, and there's a difference between pronunciation and enunciation. I can pronounce fine, but I oftentimes don't. I slur my words, and people don't hear what they get the idea, but they don't get the word.
Right.
So focus on enunciation as well as correct pronunciation. Your enthusiasm, your mannerisms, everything else is great. But when you're speaking in front
Because
of
I just learned these words in the morning.
yeah. So you have a few days.
Yeah, I have a few days to learn.
You have a few days to learn. And in the future, when you're going to do a presentation, this applies to all of us, think about how you're going to use the words. If you're not sure of the pronunciation and the enunciation, don't use them. I oftentimes, when I'm doing presentations in the middle, I realize I'm thinking a few words ahead because English is my first language, which is a real advantage. And I'm realizing, that's not, I can't get that one out, so I'm going to say a different word.
Okay.
So, but just pay attention to the actual word. You're going to talk about Hawaii, or if I'm going to talk about India, I'm going to have to do a little bit of study.
Yeah.
Even if I've been there, my experience with India was I got deported. Well, big deal. That is an adventurous story, but I didn't get much vocabulary out of it.
Now let me give.
So I have to leave as I have a 1:30 meeting.
Yeah.
Thank
But good luck to you, Roy, and good luck, Beatrice.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Bring home the bacon.
Will you leave your
Oh yeah.
you give it to we'll give it to Beatrice together. Okay, well, they're doing that. Very good suggestions. The pacing and the words, the enunciations, there are very good suggestions. I have quite a few things that I'd like. From the beginning, the title.
Okay.
I don't like the title. All too common. The scariest ride. You know, it's always kind. I would suggest that you come up with something like a part of your story. Meaning to say, it could be, my heart was up my throat.
Okay.
Because I heard you say that in the end.
Yes.
All right?
Yeah. Well, I was going to suggest.
Okay, can I finish my
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
and then well, that's one suggestion. You know, make some, or maybe the punchline they have, like Kilalia or
Oh.
Yeah.
Kahilili.
Kahilili, or maybe that could be your title, Kahilili.
Yeah.
Or then the people say, what's Kahilili?
Kahikili.
Right. So we're gonna title. Right? Now, in the opening, he had a lot of questions.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah.
But maybe you could just come up with just one question.
Okay.
When was the last time you had the most scariest ride in the world?
Okay.
Just one question.
Uh-huh.
Fellow Toastmasters and
Uh-huh.
and then you begin your story. We had a very wonderful trip, vacation.
Okay.
It was large, you know,
Uh-huh.
and speak on a first person basis.
Okay. Okay.
What I observed
Yeah.
from your story is more like a third person
Right.
relation of this.
Okay.
It's much better to relate
Yes.
it on the
That's right.
first person.
Mhm.
Oh, it was wonderful.
Yeah,
This is my
yeah.
first time.
Yeah.
I don't know what to expect,
Uh-huh.
but here we are
Right.
on the second day, last one.
Uh-huh.
And then jump into the story on the first person basis.
Uh-huh.
Oh, wow, this is my first time to drive. Oh, it's
Yeah.
cool guy. Even in the dialogue,
Uh-huh.
when you say, my husband,
Uh-huh.
make it like you're doing a play. You
Okay.
say, oh honey, why didn't you pick up your,
Yeah.
you know, the camera so that,
Yeah.
wait a minute,
Uh-huh.
you're
Okay.
not trying to do a
Yeah,
dialogue.
yeah, yeah.
Because that way it's more personal.
Yeah.
And then you go to the story, build it from your,
Okay.
you know, and then in the end, then you have a punchline.
Okay.
And they mentioned about the pacing. One thing that you don't want to do is walk while talking. That's not very good. It's a no-no. Don't walk while talking.
Oh.
Okay. What you can do is talk, make a point. When you make a point, then you slowly move. You have to then look at the audience, address this audience. Now, in terms of thinking, instead of looking up, looking down, look at the person, look at Troy. Look at, use that technique to start thinking, what am I going to say next? Because that way, even though you're not saying anything, people are expecting what you're going to say next. You use that moment to connect. You know,
I was
something about.
looking at him all the time. He must have felt uncomfortable while he's looking at me all the
But as
time.
far as you're, they're
Just-
great,
yeah.
you know, because you put the vocal projection, you're doing great.
Okay.
This speech material is really good. I think this is,
So work on.
because here you try to share an experience,
Yeah.
scariest experience. And you build up that experience. And you, whereas from the, like what Trino was expecting because of the title, was already trying to, what's the, you know, but here you build up just the title. So you can choose whatever you want, you know, because the line, when you mentioned that line, for example, if you decided, my heart was up my throat, because you would repeat that in your speech, then they would, oh yeah, that's why they, you know,
That's why.
that's why the speech was like. Or in the end, that was a killer,
Okay.
what did you say?
I said.
Your punchline was, I think what it really means is,
I said, Kali kill you.
oh yeah,
Not
Kali kill you.
Kill you.
Oh.
365. Not a Kali kill you. 340.
Oh yeah, Kali kill you. You can say that, you know,
Yeah.
because in the end that will be your punchline.
Yeah.
You know, Kali kill you.
Okay.
All right.
Wow.
But you know, be yourself.
Yeah.
Always tell it in the first person.
Yeah,
You know,
that's true.
so-
I thought about that too.
Okay.
The first person.
Yes.
So well, are you going to make a comment on what you said, Bobby, which is took place about the title, something that happens within the speech,
context,
which
yeah.
is of my throat, you know, something like that. And I was gonna suggest like there was a point in the speech where you said, "And it started to rain."
Uh-huh.
So if the title of the speech were something like that, and it started to rain, then when you are in the speech and you say, and it started to rain, then people kind of, oh, that's the title of the speech. Or another area is, and the road got narrower and narrower. That would be the title, and the road got narrower and narrower. Something like that. So in that way, when you mention it in the speech, then, you know, it takes life. The title now takes life.
So the world's scariest road makes no sense.
Well, it's
a little more
too common.
common.
Too
yeah.
common.
Too common. That's something that, you know, I mean, so
I-
because the
I-
minute you say, here's my title,
Huh.
people will start thinking about that.
Okay.
But so if you leave up a title that, you know, for example, like what I suggested to you, my heart is up my throat.
Oh, okay.
Because that's what you exactly said when
Yeah.
you were saying.
Yeah.
people start thinking, what is it about? It's up my throat.
Or even when he was saying the road got narrower and narrower, it's tired. So what is she going to talk about? I think I have that inclination, wanting to know what it is, rather than the scariest ride. Not the scary ride, calm like you said.
As a suggestion, everybody suggested different titles, that kind of thing. Because of your audience, and you think in terms of appropriateness to your audience, most of the people that are going to be there have been there. Everybody's going to be at the speech, is going to be there. In Maui, there is a famous road to Hana,
Okay.
which is the circle around the south, another part of the island. So when you talk about, you might, in terms of using a phrase that's going to relate to the audience, it could be something to the effect of, if you've been on the road to Hana, you haven't lived until you try the road to wherever this destination is. The road to Hana used to be really, really frightening. Now it's a 2-lane road.
And this is double.
Oh, I've been on the road.
The
You've
road
been on
to,
this?
Yeah,
the road to where?
I've been all the way around the island on the road.
Road to Hana? Yeah, that
The road to Hana is not as frightening
No,
as
that's because it's been built and
the
approved.
Kahiki.
See, it's been approved.
Yes,
It's a highway now.
yeah.
This is just a road across the
A
farm.
rugged, yeah,
It's actually a farm you're going through.
yes. It's called, yeah. Okay, so.
So, yeah,
Okay.
but,
Wow, I can feel the nails and the
Yeah.
whip
Yeah,
and the lashes.
yeah, and
And it's been all
since
documented.
you digitate everything, so you remember what we said.
Yeah, thank you
All right?
so much,
Good,
Joseph.
good job, good job. And now, then control the president.
All right, thanks a lot, I appreciate it. Absolutely. Definitely has been a great experience
Yes,
running a contest here.
Yeah.
And definitely I learned a lot from just the way it's been done, and looking forward to be at this contest on Friday, because I can imagine already the people are gonna be in there, and the contest as a whole. I wanna now see the contest as the whole
Yeah.
big picture of the contest, while you're also being in a contest. So definitely it's exciting. So, if any other comments, Adolfo? Okay, with that being said, we want to thank all of you for being here and making it happen, and meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.
All right, we're done.
All right.
Hey, Mr. Bessie, today I'm
Where's
doing
the sign-in
a
sheet?
webinar. Yeah, well, tell us the whole world.
Oh, really?
Right?
Looking at the future movie star.
So,
Enjoy yourself.
Enjoy yourself.
Where's the signing sheet?